This is a Bomb Productions presentation.
It is a pleasure for me to introduce David Burton to you this afternoon. David is currently Assistant Athletic Director for Sports Medicine, Head Athletic Trainer, and member of the teaching faculty, Department of Kinesiology at the University of Colorado Boulder. His responsibilities include coordinating and directing the sports medicine program for the University of Colorado Athletic Department men's and women's teams. David's professional recognitions include currently being National Convention Committee Chairman for the National Athletic Trainers Association. He is a member of the National Athletic Trainers Association Certification Committee and is a committee member on state licensing of athletic trainers. David also has many professional lectures and paper presentations to his credit. David and his wife Marty have 3 sons, Clark, Clayton, and Curtis. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to Goodland, Mr. David Burton.
Thank you for the boutonniere. Thank you for the boutonniere. I told someone that this is the boutonniere they provided me, and I got to stay out at the Sugarland Hotel last week. Now can you hear me better? It's great to be back home. That's what Goodland is and always will be to me. Before I begin today's presentation, I'd like to tell you that this is a participation address, and so if you left the Baptist Church because you got tired of standing up and sitting down, you're not going to enjoy this very much. Susan did a pretty good job of telling you what I am, but a resume doesn't do a very good job of telling you who I am. In fact, a couple of years ago, I was privileged to be at a meeting in which the ambassador to Kuwait addressed us. And he said that the American culture is the only culture that he knows of that when people introduce themselves, they introduce themselves as what they are and not who they are. For instance, he says in American culture, we would address ourselves as such. Hi, my name is Dave Burton, and I'm the Assistant Athletic Director at the University of Colorado. But he said most other cultures, people would address themselves in this way. Hi, my name is Dave Burton. I'm the son of Clayton and Joanna Burton. I'm the husband of Marty Burton and the father of Kurt, Clay, and Clark. And that those things are the things that are most important. Well, I'm going to take just a few brief minutes to tell you a little bit more about who I am and to tell you why I am so honored to be here today to address the graduating class of 1993. In fact, they told us we didn't have to be out of here until about 5 o'clock, so sit back and enjoy yourself. I was born in 1954 here at Goodland in Booth Roy Memorial Hospital, which is in the 500 block of Main Street and is now the site of a beautiful home and a medical center. I lived across the street from Dick, Mike, Peggy, and Bobby Short, which tells you an awful lot about who I am and what I've endured so far. I went to church and was baptized at the First Christian Church. The original church now sits where Bogart Supermarket is at. I had a gold metallic Schwinn Stingray bicycle with a banana seat that I terrorized the streets of Goodland on. My first girlfriend was Robin Teedy. She was also my 4th girlfriend, my 7th girlfriend, and my 8th girlfriend. On the way to Grant Elementary School, I walked by Ron Barkley's house. And he had a dog that he would chain so that when that dog charged the sidewalk, the chain would stop just about 6 inches from when it hit the pavement. And I can't say for sure why he did that. I think it was to force us to walk on the other side of the street. But as soon as we found out that that chain would not let that dog cross the pavement, we used it to our advantage, and we darn near strangled the dog. We'd walk back and forth, and that dog would charge us each time it would yank back on that chain. It became a very pleasant dog eventually. I learned speech from Rodney Eisenbeis, and if this doesn't go very well, you can look him up and blame him. I fell in love with my high school French teacher, Sharon Smith. I was in espressos, something which I'm very proud of yet today. I played some football and a little bit of basketball, and in fact, it was playing football here at Goodland High School that I injured my knee and had to have it surgically reconstructed, and Coach May said, as long as you can't play next year, and I don't know if he was referring to my surgery or my abilities, But he said, as long as you can't play next year, why don't you be our trainer? You can take people up and help people that are injured. And so he sent away and got some pamphlets and some information that would help me learn how to tape ankles and that type of thing. And it was Coach May that I credit with starting me on my road to the profession I'm currently at today. I also wrestled here. As I was walking up here on the stage, I walked by the area back here that we used to call the pit. And I don't know if it's still the wrestling room. That used to be where we wrestled. I can remember one day being down in the wrestling room, and a good friend of mine, Scott Cooper, who wasn't a very good wrestler, took me and threw me to the mat, which tells you how good a wrestler I was. And as he drove my nose into the mat, I came up and I had blood gushing from my nose. And Coach McCall ran over to me with a towel and he wiped the blood from my nose. And then he took a 6-inch long Q-tip and he dipped it in some alcohol and iodine and he put it up inside my nose and then he just kind of rolled it around until my eyes started to water. And then he said, okay, the bleeding stopped, go back and wrestle. Now, I don't know if that particular scenario is what led me to wanting to get into athletic training, because I don't relish the thought of putting young athletes through a lot of pain. But certainly that's an experience that I remember and that I share with my students all the time. You know, I can almost hear when I came into this building the echoes of Coach Atkins. Those are people that you won't remember, but your parents remember. I can almost hear their voices of Coach Atkins and Coach McCall and Miss Harrison, who basically ran this building back when I was going to school here. You can hear him say something like, yeah, that Burton kid's weak, but at least he's slow. This is the building where I learned how to do the crab walk. I learned how to play volleyball and wrestle. I learned what a do-si-do was. I also beat Gary Cucarola around the top of this thing in 5 laps, and that was a major feat for me at the time. This is a place where I learned discipline and self-control. I can remember meeting Max L. Jones when I was a very young child. The person in this building is named after. And though he passed away back in 1963, I believe, when I was about 9 years old, I remember him as a person of great integrity and purpose. And it seems appropriate that this building not only house sporting events, which he dearly loved, but that it also hosts educational events and ceremonies such as this, the 30th Graduation Convocation Center in the Max L. Jones Fieldhouse. This is a place to celebrate integrity, the purity of intention which this school district and people like Max Jones, Audrey Smith, Leonard Howe, and Bethel Amorine, to name a few, have always stood for. When I was much younger, I and my best pal, Kyle Schneider, would ride our bikes over to this area while it was under construction. And while we would marvel at this large crater that eventually became the arena, the place that we spent most of our time was across the street in what's now the parking lot. Once this location across the street had a few homes on it, and they were raised to make way for this beautiful facility. But it was soon turned into a block of mounds and valleys, the tailings from this big hole which they had made. Tal and I would spend hours riding our bikes over the steep hills, pausing only long enough to heave a large dirt clod at one another, and then roar with laughter when we made a direct hit and sent the other one head over heels, landing into the soft woodland below. I should remind you that this was back in the days before bike helmets and knee pads, which might explain the many scars of childhood which Tal and I and many others at my age currently carry with us today. It was also before the days of Ultra Tide, which causes me to marvel even more at the things that Joanna and Wanda were able to do and accomplish with laundry 30 years ago. By midsummer, that block across the street was covered with a carpet of yellow and green. It was a thing of beauty to those of us who appreciated the essence of a bike trail landscaped with dandelions. It was the scourge of the community of elders with manicured lawns who saw the area as the playground from hell. So it was inevitable that the mounds of cycling pleasure and the natural beauty of the golden flowers of summer would eventually give way to a gravel-bedded parking lot. But I remember riding my bike past the parking lot several weeks after they had paved it over and smiled as I saw a dazzling yellow-headed stem working its way back up through the compacted surface. In today's vernacular, I'm sure I would have uttered something like, all right, or awesome, dude. But the words I used were much more apropos for the time. I just looked at it and said, that's groovy. From that day on, I looked at dandelions in a whole new way. One person's weed is another's flower. It's all in your perspective. Now, I'm not recommending that we rethink all of our efforts towards eradicating this pestilent plant, but I am going to ask you to consider the dandelion. Seems strange for a commencement address, doesn't it? It is resilient, it's hardy, it's persistent, and its beauty lies strictly in the eyes of the beholder. Its roots are deep and strong, embedded firmly in its rightful place. In fact, it's that root system which makes that flower what it is. Much like it is your roots that make you what you are and what you will be. And so it's those roots which I thought of as I prepared my message to you this afternoon. Well, I'm here with you today because of my roots. They're the same roots as yours. They're a little bit older, but you know, older roots make for more beautiful flowers. They're the same roots that were begun here and nurtured in the same way and in the same place as yours. Right here in Goodland at 516 Sherman. Just right down the street from Harlan McDaniels and Sadie White, who were city fathers before most of us knew who our own fathers were. Right here at Grant Elementary School, which is now Grant Junior High School, and at Goodland and Junior and Senior High School, where I learned more, and you've learned more, than just reading, writing, and arithmetic. Things like resourcefulness, judgment, cooperation were not only stressed, but were demonstrated by the lives of teachers and administrators like Charlotte Dunn, Doris Lyons, William Pittman. I can tell you stories about Principal Pittman that would make your hair stand up on them. And Flossie Kulik. I want to pause for just a minute and ask that, here comes the participation part, ask that all current administrators, teachers, custodians, cooks, groundskeepers, and secretarial staffs, current and past, if they could please stand for just a minute. If you've ever taught or had anything to do with the Goodland school system, if you could please stand for just 1 minute. These people, educators, each and every one, regardless of their job descriptions, and those here in this arena who have nurtured your minds and bodies for the past 13 years, are and will be a part of your life forever. Today, the graduates celebrate you and all that you have given to them. I was honored last spring when I was asked to speak at the Letter Winners Banquet here in Goodland. And at that gathering, I spoke about the values inherent in growing up in Goodland. And if you'll allow me, I'd like to share some of those with you, the graduating class of 1993. Because these values also established your roots. Many of these values were taught in school, but most were initiated at home. Values like faith, love, and honesty were practiced by my parents, Clayton and Joanna Burton, and were shared by all in our household, my brother Scott, my sisters Suzanne and Nancy. And though not all of our family relationships withstood the pressures of modern-day society, we all knew and still know where we could find love. In fact, many today believe, as I do, that the family, and in particular the parents, and their value structures may be the answer to many of the problems young people face today. So if I could now, I would like to ask for all of the parents of the graduates to please stand. It is you, the parents, who conceived these young dandelions and gave them their initial form and function. The graduates salute you because they are a part of you, and your support and help will sustain them for years to come. Thank you, parents. You know, I too am a parent. I'm the proud husband of Marty K. Moon, and the diligent father of 3 of the best-looking and most intelligent children in the state of Colorado. In fact, many of the football players at the University of Colorado who have come to know my family often ask my wife who the true father of our children is. I want to share with you a couple of stories about my oldest son, Clark. It says a lot about some of what I'm trying to get across today about family values, the types of values that this community can instill in you, and the successes that it can prepare you for in the future. The first story relates to the birth of my first son, Clark, some 11 years ago. Now, I'm not old enough to have a son 11 years old, but my wife is. All three of my sons were born cesarean, and so my wife was not allowed to be conscious during their birth, but I was allowed to assist in their delivery. And on the birth of my first son, Clark, as he was delivered from a womb, and they cleaned him up, and they brought him to me and laid him in my arms, as many of your parents have experienced, and many of you hopefully will experience, that feeling when that baby is placed in your arms, I looked deep into its face, and I tried to speak. I wanted to talk to my son, but nothing came out. Oh, the words were formed. I knew everything I wanted to say, but for some reason my heart became about 10 times larger, and it got in the way of my larynx, and I couldn't say anything. All I could do is let the tears well up in my eyes and think. And what I thought about was this, in a few short moments. I thought about the fact that in my arms was this child that was part of me and part of a wife that I dearly loved. But more than that, I thought that this is a child who is also part of my mother, Joanna. And by the way, my mother, Joanna, and my stepfather, Eugene Young, are here, and I'd like to have them stand and just let everybody say hello to them. Joanna and Gene, where are you? I had to do that. It's in your parental contract. But as I held him, I thought, this baby is also a part of Clayton and Joanna, my parents. And it's a part of my grandpa and grandma Burton and my grandpa and grandma Stover. And it's a part of my sister Suzanne and my sister Nancy and my brother Scott. And it's a part of all of my cousins and aunts and uncles. And then as that thought overwhelmed me, I thought for a minute that the good Lord had given us this child for just a brief period of time. That it really wasn't ours to have and to hold forever. That we got to have this child and bring it up in our home for a short period of time, about 18 or 19 years, like you've just experienced. And then we had to send it out to the world at large. And that the responsibility of bringing up this child was just amazing and awesome. But that it was not our responsibility alone. And so at that time, Marty and I made a commitment to ourselves that not only would we do everything we could to nurture good values and a good root structure for our young sons, but that we would also place our sons in a community which would help us to do that, which Goodland truly is. The other story I want to share with you relates to my 11-year-old son. And my wife and I decided a couple of months ago that it was time that our sons learn about the facts of life. I'm not going to embarrass you and ask you how many of you had your fathers and mothers sit down and tell you that story, but we decided 11 years old was old enough, and so we brought him in, and I was very nervous. I set up a time when he and I could be alone. My wife and the two younger boys left the house, and we sat down in the family room, and I said, Clark, there's something I want to talk to you about. It has to do with the facts of life, birds and the bees. And I fumbled around, and I'm sure there was a little sweat coming off my brow. And Clark, being very observant, reached over, touched me on the knee and said, what is it you want to know, Dad? Many of our roots have been nourished and reinforced by this community in general. Values like honesty and loyalty and reliability are all hallmarks of what is known to the rest of the country as a strong Midwestern work ethic. Now that's something I'd never heard before until I got to the University of Colorado. And the way I picked that up is at the University of Colorado and in all major universities across the Midwest, major corporations from around the country, particularly those corporations that lie east of the Mississippi and west of the state of Colorado, send in what they call corporate recruiters. And corporate recruiters come to these major institutions to pick out the brightest and the best of college graduates. And by and large, the area where they spend most of their time is in Midwestern colleges and universities because of this thing known as the great Midwestern work ethic. Well, what is this great Midwestern work ethic? It's the things we've just been talking about. It's honesty, it's loyalty, it's reliability. It's people like you and like your parents and your parents before them who know, coming from this part of the country, that a job doesn't get done from 8 to 5, but you do a job just to get it done however long it takes. And that reliability and that honesty creates respect. And that's something that you're going to have as a result of the value systems which you have picked up while you've grown up here in Goodland. You know, a couple of weeks ago, right before our spring football game, we invited all of our current and past CU football players. Anybody who's ever been to Buffalo, we invited them back for our spring football game, and Coach McCartney had a breakfast for everyone. And we had about 230 current and former players come back. And we sat in a room and we had a breakfast and we talked, and Coach McCartney had asked Bo Schimbeckler, the former coach for University of Michigan, to come back and talk with us. And Coach Schimbeckler talked for about 30 minutes, and he said a great deal of very many wise things, but the one thing he said that really stood out to me was one simple sentence. He said this: if you can find somebody who is honest with you, if you can find somebody who you believe will always tell you the truth and in whom you can confide always with the truth, then latch on to that person and hold on to him for the rest of your life. And I listened to that and I thought, that's very profound. And it's very simple, yet it's something we don't think about very often. But you put it into any context, whether it be in a marriage, whether it be in an educational setting, or whether it be in a job and in your future successes, I encourage all of you to find those people to surround yourself with who are honest, who are trustworthy, and with whom you can also be honest. It was very easy to learn those values growing up here in Goodland, working with role models such as Ray and Edith Dye. Ray Dye spent many hours, many days, many weeks with other people's children, teaching them how to play baseball, working with them in their basketball skills. He was the epitome, in my eyes, of a role model for an industrial, hardworking, work ethic individual. Gene and Betty Short, who were like second parents to me. Wade and Juanita Barnett, two people who, whenever I had a problem, I could always go to, and to this day, 25, 30 years later, they are people that I can still go to and talk to and who will help me out with a problem. Bob and Gertrude Baker, people that lived in our neighborhood, who were two of the hardest working people I've ever met. Will and Evie Stout. And the list could go on and on. The opportunity to work side by side in a working situation with people like Jake Rooney and Bill Bishop fostered a strong sense of work ethic and a value in me that's with me still today. Values like ambition and enthusiasm were easily found and fostered by my association with people like Meredith Myers and Charlie Bray, and the incomparable ambassador of the Heartlands, John Golden. Patience and poise are virtues which are valued and evidently admired in people that I knew and grew up with, like Ellen Schell, Dr. M.J. Renner, who brought me into this world, and good family friends, Ruth Fraser, excuse me. Determination and fight are both standards of this Midwestern work ethic and are part of our roots. In fact, when I think of determination and fight, I think of some of those on the dais up here with me today. I grew up watching Dick Short and Bill Steiner play football and basketball. I watched Bill Steiner work at his family's restaurant, and I want to tell you, if you want to talk about the epitome of work ethic, you're talking about Bill Steiner's parents, Ruth and Francis Steiner. They made the best Green Rivers and vanilla Dr. Peppers I've ever had. In fact, it was said of Bill Steiner by one of his coaches that he didn't know the meaning of the word fight, or the meaning of the word quit, excuse me. That he knew the meaning of the word fight, but didn't know the meaning of the word quit. But his coach went on to say that if you took a look at his scholastic record, that was only one of the many words he didn't know the meaning of. Seriously, I grew up watching people like Bill Steiner and Bill Elliott, Steve Peters, Dave Jones, Mitch Teedy. Recognize some of those names? Tom Rooney, Leo Hayden, Roy Brown, Larry McCants, Dick and Mike Short, Dale and Ron Shields, Freddie Shields. They were, and they still are, role models to me. Another aspect of my roots was, and still is, my faith, and I hope it is or will be a part of yours. Growing up in a Christian home and having those Christian values upheld by people like Elmer and Mary Ewer, Joe Hurst, Don and June Baldwin, Dean and Arlene McKenzie, Ruth and Selby Sword. All of those people helped me to establish a firm belief system. And I'm quite blessed yet today to be able to work in an environment with an individual who is a very strong Christian. Coach Bill McCartney wears his religion on his sleeve. And I'm very blessed to be able to work with such a man. And I've got to tell you one Bill McCartney story. This is a story I shared with the letter winners last year, and I hope they'll indulge me to share this story with you. This is a Bill McCartney story, and it's not true, but I wish it was. It's about a recruit who was highly recruited by all of the Big 8 schools, and he went out for a visit to the football programs in the Big 8, and his first visit was at the University of Oklahoma. And while he was there at the University of Oklahoma, he went into Coach Gibbs' office, and while he was talking with Coach Gibbs, he looked over in the corner and he noticed a beautiful bronze telephone sitting over in the corner. And he asked Coach Gibbs what the phone was for, and Coach Gibbs said, "That's a direct line to heaven." And the young man said, "Well, why do you have a direct line to heaven?" And Coach Gibbs says, "We need a lot of help here." And the young man said, "Well, would you mind if I picked it up and made a call?" And Coach Gibbs said, being ever mindful of NCAA violations at the University of Oklahoma, Coach Gibbs said, "Why, certainly you can call, but you're going to have to pay the $20 toll." Well, the young man didn't have $20, and so he said, "I'll try it maybe next time." Well, the next weekend, as the story goes, the young recruit went to the University of Nebraska. I saw a lot of Nebraska license plates out there, and I'm taking my life in my own hands by telling this story, but I'll go ahead. And while he was in Coach Osborne's office, he looked over in the corner, and sure enough, there was a beautiful silver telephone. And he asked Coach Osborne what the phone was for, and Coach Osborne, being a very Christian man, said, "That's a telephone which I can pick up at any time. It's a direct line to heaven." And the young man said, "Would you mind if I made a call?" Coach Osborne, being ever mindful of NCAA violations and sanctions, said, "No, you may make a call, young man, but you're going to have to pay the toll." The young man said, "How much?" Coach Osborne said, "It's $100. Kid looked at him and said, "It's only $20 at Oklahoma." Well, we all know Nebraska's a lot further away from heaven than Oklahoma. That's not the punchline, although it would be a good one. The third visit brought the young man to the beautiful campus of the University of Colorado. And while he was there, he went up into Coach McCartney's office. And Coach McCartney, in the corner of his room, sure enough, had a beautiful 24 gold-plated telephone. And the young man said, "Is that a telephone to heaven?" And Coach McCartney, somewhat surprised that he knew what it was, says, "Well, yes, it is. Would you like to make a phone call?" The young man said, "I'd like to, but I can't afford it." And Coach McCartney said, "Don't worry about it. There's no charge on local calls." Finally, the value which exceeds most others in determining the stability of your roots is friendship. It has been said that friendship is the glue which will truly bond this world together. And I can tell you, coming back to Goodland after being away from here for about 25 years, those friendships don't die. And they're not friendships that you've established just within your class or with other classmates above you or below you, but they're friendships that you've established with this community, with the individuals that are surrounding you today. Friendships are what make this town so special and will allow a unique bond between you and it for years to come. The friendship of those I've mentioned today and a host of others that I didn't have an opportunity to mention is what makes us what we are. Long-time friendships with people like Terry Nash, Dave Shields, Janet Dye, Steve Mann, Cheryl Barnes, which I now hear is Cheryl Barnes Short, Janet Dye, Brian Hatcher, Amy Townsend, Valerie Tompkins, and dearly beloved and departed friends like Mike Wade, Randall Peters, and my own kid brother, Scott Lee Burton. We haven't stayed as close as what we'd all like, but the bond of our friendship is like the root of those dandelions. It will be of our own parents alone, but of the many people who are this town. Your successes are our successes. Your failures will be our failures. If I have succeeded in anything in my life, it's because my parents succeeded, my friends succeeded, my teachers succeeded. I did not get there by myself, nor will you get there by yourself. And so will you take a moment right now to celebrate this community, to warmly thank one another with a handshake or a hug, and with your applause for what each of you have done for each other and for your families and for this community. Please be seated. To the graduates, congratulations on your commencement in life. and upon your membership in this community. Like the dandelions, we scatter you to the winds, knowing that your roots will sustain you. Thank you.
think I speak for the entire student body when I say it's been a great pleasure to have Lisa and Cecilia with us in school this year. We will never forget you. As a token of our friendship and hope for world peace, we would like to take this occasion to exchange the flags of our nations.
And I'm from Sweden. And my family this year has been wonderful to me. And Mom and Dad, Janet and Bill mainly, and my siblings, Scott and Chris Bossman. And thanks for all the beautiful memories you've given me. And thanks also to all my friends and all the teachers at Goodland High School for always being there for me. Thanks. I've been here for 10 months, and in less than 6 weeks, I'll have to go home. And I'll have to take one more year of high school and then go on to college. I've enjoyed a lot here. I really had lots of fun. And I want to thank everyone for your hospitality, especially all my friends, and my high school teachers, and very especially my family. Lavina and Gary Hobby, and Vanessa Hobby, my little sister. Bye.
Today is a day to remember the past, and today is a day to remember those who are a part of our past. As we look back on our experiences, we're reminded of friends who shared those special times. One such friend was Kara Bensinger, who departed from us in a car accident during her senior year in high school. I would like to read the poem Mitzvah by Julia Baker in Kara's memory. Go thou thy way, and I go mine, apart yet not afar. Only a thin veil hangs between the pathways where we are. And God keep watch between me and me, this is my prayer. He looks thy way, he looketh mine, and keeps us near. I know not where thy road may lie, or which way mine may be. If mine shall be through parching sands, and thine beside the sea. Yet God keep watch between thee and me, so never fear. He holds thy hand, he claspeth mine, and keeps us near. Should wealth and fame perchance be thine, and my lot lowly be, or ye be sad and sorrowful, and glory be for me. Yet God keep watch between thee and me, both be his care. One arm round thee, and one round me, will keep us near. I sigh sometimes to see thy face, that since this may not be, I'll leave thee to the care of him who cares for thee and me. I'll have you both beneath my wings, this comfort's dear. One wing over thee, and one over me, so we are near. And though our paths be separate, and thy way is not mine, yet coming to thy mercy seat, my soul will meet with thine. And God keep watch between thee and me, I'll whisper here. He blesseth thee, he blesseth me, and we are near. We will always remain close to Kara, for her memory lives strong in our hearts.
Since 1983, the Sherman County Alumni Association has been proud to present the Outstanding Educator Award to the teachers of Goodland High. On March 23rd, the association met with a group of student leaders in the junior and senior class. Two past winners, Mike Johnson and John Longman, and Bill Steiner, the high school principal. At that time, the students picked the nominees for this award. To be nominated for this award is a great honor and shows that each of the educators are very committed to the students of Goodland High School. The nominees for this year are Dave Pearson, Don Smith, and Jack Walker. Dave Pearson is unable to be here today, but Mr. Smith and Mr. Walker would please stand, please. The recipient of this award will have their name engraved on the plaque that hangs permanently at Goodland High School, plus a permanent plaque and a cash award from the Alumni Association. At the last senior class meeting, the seniors voted. I'm proud to announce this year's Outstanding Educator is Jack Walker. Oh, I'm scared to death. Yes, very easy.
Okay, let's get a piece of paper out and some pencils. I want to thank you all for making this available to me. There are many people who are probably much more fit for it. But I would like to say one or two things to you. I'm probably the epitome of someone who should not be up here. My mother dropped out of school when she was a sophomore in high school. My father dropped out of school when he was a sophomore in high school. And in education was not really important to my father, but it was to my mother. And so I hated to take English 4. My God, I hated to take it, but I did. My mother said, "You will." Well, I got into college, and then I thought, well, we got married, and I decided, well, time to quit school. So we quit school, my wife and I, and we worked for a couple of years, and my mother said, "You should go back to school." My father said, "You can't afford to go back to school." And my wife said, "You will go back to school." So I have to kind of give her lots and lots of credit. Thank you very much.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank or to congratulate the Goodland class of 1993, and particularly the recipients of the special awards. The salutatorian for 1993 is Chris Craig Hansen. The valedictorian for 1993, Keely Milan Shields.
Ladies and gentlemen, members of the Board of Education, Dr. Hamilton, Mr. Heaton, it is my pleasure to present the class of 1993. Craig Allen Baldwin.
Goodland, Masonic Lodge 321 Scholarship, Goodland High School Alumni Association Scholarship, Fuller Scholarship from the University of Kansas, Student of the Week, Goodland Daily News.
Damon Lee Belcher. Drew Ann Beringer.
Shelter Insurance Foundation Scholarship, Presidential Academic Fitness Award, Elk's Most Valuable Student Award from the State Elk Competition, and Laura Snowden Memorial Scholarship from the Board of Education.
Cherie Lynn Blau.
Memorial Scholarship, Goodland High School Alumni Association Scholarship, Student of the Week, Goodland Daily News.
Crystal Lee Layton. William Dean Bain. James O. Tabassos. Jason Charles Check.
Goodland VFW Junior Scholarship, Winter Scholarship, Morgan County Community College, Our Lady of Perpetual Health Catholic Church Altar Society Scholarship, Goodland Knights of Columbus Scholarship.
Jeremy Aaron Collin.
Larry Loveland Memorial Scholarship, Football Scholarship, Hutchinson Community College.
Diane Rochelle Kuhn.
A.G. Hanson Student Award, Goodland Development Group Scholarship, Presidential Academic Fitness Award, Academic Scholarship from Harding University.
Holly Angela Corbin. Heather Nicole Criswell. Preston Clay Crumbaker.
College, Endowment Association, Football Scholarship, Garden City Community College.
Brandy Lee Darby. Sasha Domingo Donovan. Andrew Lee Drennan. Jackie Sue Eklund. Dennis Joseph Fisher. Christina Cecilia Broberg. Angela K. Braun. Gloria Sue Garcia. Avail G. Garcia. Ryan David Gatchell.
Scholarship, Hope Community College, local scholarship, Hope Community College.
Skylar D. Goodland.
Mustang Band Scholarship, Presidential Academic Fitness Award.
Christopher Craig Hansen.
Outstanding student of math and science, as nominated by the high school math and science instructors at GHS Dean's Award from the Kansas University College of Engineering, Bill Gray Memorial Scholarship, Presidential Academic Fitness Award, Seton Engineering Scholarship from the Kansas State University Engineering Department, Elks Most Valuable Student Award from the State Elks Competition, the Morris Southern Memorial Scholarship from the Board of Education.
Shauna Marie Heinrich. Jeffrey G. Helmer.
Bill Watkins Memorial Scholarship, Dean Scholarship, Bethany College Academic Award, Bethany.
Alejandro Ontiveros Hernandez. Michelle Renee Hickson. Lynn R. Hilty. Jason Allen Hooper. Football scholarship, Community College, Dean Scholarship, Community College, and Endowment Association. Athlete of the Week, Goodland and the News. David Paul Hovis. Wendy Faye Huthansel. Erica Nicole Jensen. Gary Wayne Johnson. Scholarship, Board of Education. Ryan Edward Johnson. Stacy Ann Jewell. Scholarship, Goodland VFW Auxiliary Scholarship, Goodland High School Alumni Association Scholarship, Presidential Academic Fitness, Goodland High School National Honor Society Scholarship, Young Woman of the Year Award, UFC Scholarship from the University of Tennessee, Doris Snowden Memorial Scholarship from the Board of Education, Kansas State High School Activities Association Citizenship Award as elected by the GHS faculty, Brian C. Smith Memorial Scholarship. Melvin Eugene Lake. Thad M. Lambert. Scott Walton Lau. Michael James Lehman. Anne Marie Lytle. Al Scholarship, Goodland High School National Honor Society Scholarship, Clergy Family Award from Bethany College. Lawrence Joseph Laughlin. Courtney Robin Lucas. Lisa Dickman Memorial Scholarship. Justin Russell Mars. Ashley Don Martin. James E. McHugh. Monty J. McClure. Jamie Lynn McKee. Goodland County Young Woman of the Year Award, State Young Woman of the Year Award, Up with the People Scholarship, Goodland Knights of Columbus Scholarship. Tara Renee Miller. Melissa Ann Mills. Kendall Leroy Morris. Sharon Denise Musel. Noe Muscus. Kevin Dwayne Neitzel. Bradley J. Parker.
Northwest Kansas Area Medical Foundation Scholarship Academic Award from Bethany College.
Lisa Rambaldi. Scott Craig Richardson. Keely Milan Shields.
Memorial Scholarship from the Board of Education Men and Women of the Year Award. Arnold G. Shields Memorial Scholarship. James C. Hanson Award. U.S. Marine Corps Scholastic Excellence Award. Technology Scholar, Goodland High School Alumni Association Scholarship President Academic Fitness Award. Kansas State University Foundation Scholarship Award.
Tiffany Ann Shields. Amy Elizabeth Short. Lance Lee Smith. Jeremiah Robert Sneven. Ryan Allen Student. Justin Joe Tesmer.
Early Technology Scholar, Presidential Academic Fitness Award, Leadership Scholarship from Kansas State University.
Krista L. Townsend. Michael Lynn Van Lunen.
Endowment Scholarship from Mid-American Management College.
Joan Christine Waldman.
Tuition grant from Colby Community College, State VFW Scholar, Our Lady of Perpetual Help Catholic Church Altar Society Scholarship, Cody T. Fellow Wellman Scholarship for Education.
Jeremy Wayne Wildryer. Jessica Ann Whistler.
Scholarship, Goodland Knights and Honor Scholarship, Athlete of the Week, Goodland David Jones.
Nikki Rochelle Whiteman. Jason Michael Whitson. Corey James Wilson. Randy Elaine Wendell. Jesse Everett Woodard. Christy Bell Yarborough. Becky Jim Zimmelman. Ladies and gentlemen, the class of 1993.